Hi, my name is Jainin, and today I'll present my work on women's perspectives on harm and justice after online harassment. I want to emphasize that this work was a massive team effort. I would especially like to thank Sarita for guiding us through the project. Before I dive in, I want to give a content warning that in this talk, I will mention harassment and abuse against women. So across the world, online violence against women is a serious problem. According to a report released by the UN in 2015, about 73% of women across the globe have experienced or observed some sort of online violence. What's even more problematic is that research has shown that current social platforms' response to such harms is not enough. So many platforms like Twitter and Facebook have focused on removing content that violates their guidelines or banning perpetrators from the platform. However, researchers have argued that such efforts are limited because they actually do not start from and do not sufficiently attend to the experiences of those who are affected the most by the harm. So in this work, we center women's experiences and ask, what are women's perspectives on harm and justice regarding online harassment? Specifically, we aim to understand people's perception of harm associated with different types of harassment, and also people's preferences for different kinds of platform responses to online harassment. Ultimately, this work aims to understand the similarities and differences between women's and men's perspectives and preferences associated with online harassment. In particular, we consider the fact that social platform governance is very US and Western centered. For example, according to this article, it says that only 13% of Facebook's misinformation moderation staff's hours were devoted to non-US countries, when these countries' populations actually comprise more than 90% of Facebook's users. Considering that platform governance is very centered around US affairs, in this work, we sought to recruit participants from a wide range of regions. We recruited nearly 4,000 participants from 14 regions, which are Austria, Cameroon, Caribbean countries, China, Colombia, India, South Korea, Malaysia, Mexico, Mongolia, Pakistan, Russia, Saudi Arabia, and the United States. Women and men participated at similar rates per region, except for the Caribbean countries where women significantly participated more. We also note that one limitation of our study is that we did not center other gender identities, such as non-binary identity, mainly because some countries' participants are not able to safely identify as such. Because we had to make the survey into different languages, we hired online translation services while also having a separate translation by research team members who are bilingual. We compared the two translations to develop a single version, and we conducted iterative pilot testing throughout development. In the survey, participants were shown 4 kinds of harassment scenarios, where someone took sexual photos of you without consent, someone spread rumors about you on social media, someone created fake accounts and sent malicious messages, and lastly, someone insulted or disrespected you on social media. Per scenario, we asked participants to complete questions that measure their perceived harms, which include psychological harm, harm to personal safety, harm to family reputation, and sexual harm. Furthermore, we asked participants to answer questions that measure their preference towards platform responses to online harassment. These responses included existing platform responses, which are removing content, labeling content, and banning perpetrators. We also included 4 kinds of alternative approaches derived from justice frameworks and prior research. These included monetary compensation, apology, which we included based on restorative justice, and revealing the perpetrator's identity and rating the perpetrator. So the survey included 7 kinds of platform responses to online harassment. When we look at the findings, the first major finding is that women perceive greater harm than men. I'm showing you 4 graphs, one per harassment scenario, and for each graph, we visualize the group means of women's and men's rating of perceived harm for the 4 types of harm. When making linear regression models, modeling harm as the dependent variable, women's perceived harm was significantly higher for all types of 4 harms across the 4 scenarios. And in particular, this was very noticeable for the non-consensual image sharing scenario shown at the top left. In the survey, we also asked participants how strongly they agree or disagree with the sentence, "When jobs are scarce, men should have more rights to a job than women." Results showed that those who tended to agree perceived greater harm to family reputation for 3 harassment scenarios. When it comes to preferences for platform responses, women especially preferred removing content and banning perpetrators. I'm showing you 4 graphs this time again, 1 graph per harassment scenario. In each graph, we visualize women versus men's mean rating of preference for a platform response. As you can see, women highly rated removing problematic content and banning perpetrators across the 4 scenarios. Furthermore, women preferred most platform responses than men. In particular, women's preference for banning and apology were significantly higher than men's for all 4 scenarios. In contrast, men significantly preferred payment more than women for 3 harassment scenarios. There are other findings that I couldn't describe in this presentation due to time, so I recommend checking out the paper for more. So lastly, takeaways and future work. Our work empirically shows that women clearly perceive greater harm than men regarding online harassment, which shows the need of call for action in policymaking in corporations. Our findings also show that it's important to understand that it is complex when it comes to theorizing and applying justice models to gender-based harassment online. On one hand, women tended to rate banning perpetrators and removing content as highly preferable, and women preferred banning more than men for all 4 scenarios, which can be seen as closer to a punitive approach. At the same time, women also preferred receiving an apology from the perpetrator more than men across the 4 scenarios, which can be seen as closer to a restorative justice approach. So future work should aim to understand the reasons behind such preferences while considering such complexity and also considering regional differences. One limitation of this work is that we regrouped all participants from various regions into one group of participants. So future work should try to consider regional differences. Thank you for listening.